This building, this winery tasting room, was approved by the township staff as an storage building for the agricultural operation that occurs on this property. It was a land use permit was issued for that to store wine and wine equipment related to that agricultural building. What happened is there was some additional work done on the inside of the building to make it into wine tasting. They served some finger foods in there, cheese, I'm not sure what else, but they're not really preparing any food inside of there. And they came to the township and said, well, we need to get land use permits for work that we've already done in there. And that's kind of what triggered the township to look at all of this. So ultimately, they need a special use permit to have this building become open to the public, be available for wine tasting, for what they currently are using. They have their farm market building out there as well. That never really did get, it had received a conditional use permit, but the township doesn't have conditional use permits anymore. They're going to be doing some interior renovation. I think there's a hood vent in there. They do some baking for bakery goods. The goal was to just get it all brought up to compliance, have it brought in front of the township, have a special use permit, have a hearing where neighbors are notified of what's going on out there. The applicants provided a list, kind of a calendar of all the activities that they do out on the site. That list is meant to let any neighbors that had concerns know that this is what the township is looking at, this is what the township is reviewing as part of their review process here. So what I've done is just kind of thrown a lot out at you, kind of brought you up to speed where we're at. And right now we've got a special use permit and a site plan that are here in front of you for review and comments. And I'll be available for any questions you might have.
All right, thanks, Troy. You want to come on forward? Sure. Introduce yourself and...
Which one? Both
sure, whatever you like. You like to sit, we're pretty casual.
Okay, good deal. Hi, I'm Shannon Rowe. My parents are the owner of Spicer Orchards. I'm their daughter. I'm a partner in the business along with my brother. I brought along with me tonight Mr. John Costa, who is the architect that put together our site plans, and we thought it would be nice for him to be here and answer any questions that you might have on the site plan portion of it. Just to kind of give a brief history, Spicer's has been a business in the community here for the past 50 years. Last year we had our 50th anniversary, which was pretty exciting. And about 2 weeks ago we got a really nice plaque in the mail from the township congratulating us on our 50 years in the area. So that was a pretty special milestone for us. And we're really happy to be continuing into the next generation of having Spicer's here in Hartland. My parents are 72 years old this year, and they consider themselves semi-retired, which basically means they kind of pick and choose the jobs they want to do on the farm and leave the tough stuff to us, younger generation. I kind of like to chuckle because anytime there's something tough comes up, my dad says, well, I think I'll leave that to the next generation to decide. So it's kind of fun. But anyhow, we are wanting to put an Ansel system in our bakery hoods in the main building of the market there where we bake our donuts, and that's kind of what prompted a lot of this process. And so we're trying to move forward with that, and I hope you've had a chance to review the documents, and happy to answer any of your questions.
Great, great, thank you. I think what we'll do for the benefit of everyone is take a look at that staff review letter that we have, if you've seen that, dated May 5th or May 3rd. And as Troy mentioned, we have special use and a site plan here. So we have two things to look at tonight. One is the special use. We'll take a look at that first, and then we'll do the site plan. But all of it starts on our packet page number 7. And in the special use, there are just some general criteria to take a look at whether this particular business fits within the whole program. As Troy, we all know you've been here and how you fit within the community, but we're trying to just get everything up to speed. So in the review letter, you see there are 6 criteria that we look at for our special land use review in support or denial of it. And the first one would be, is it harmonious and in accordance with the objectives, intent, and the purposes of the ordinance? The second is be compatible with the natural environment and existing future land uses in the vicinity. C would be compatible with the Hartland Township Comprehensive Plan. D would be served adequately by the essential services or essential facilities in public services such as highways, streets, fire, police protection, drainage, and the like. E would be not be detrimental, hazardous, or disturbing to the existing or future neighboring uses. And F would be not create additional requirements at public cost for public facilities and services that would be detrimental to the economic welfare of the community. Anybody have any comments on those, other than are you in support of the special use?
I have no problem with the special use request.
Okay, Tom, you okay with it?
I am, yes.
Yep, Jeff? Joe?
Yes.
All right, so that part was really short and easy. We'll get to a motion at the end, but the second item we're going to take a look at is the site plan. That's some of the physical attributes of the site, wanting to make sure everything that's needs to be taken care of there is. And I'm at the bottom of packet page 17 or 7, and I'm going to flip on over to 8 because we have a lot of background there. So down about 2/3 to 75% of the way is when we start getting into our conversation. Talking about the lot size, minimum required of 10 acres. We certainly have more than 10 acres there, so they do comply. Frontage requirements, 300 for a farm, or if it were a single-family detached home, it would be 200. You're at 640 anyways, so you comply. Our building setbacks for the facilities that we're referring to are all in compliance, so that's setback off the property lines, off the streets, those types of things. Our building height, while not designated, we can pretty much tell that you're not more than 35 feet high. And our lot coverage, you don't have a lot of lot coverage there because you have a lot of property. So it would appear as though you comply there. In our site requirements on dumpster enclosure, I'm at the bottom of page 9. Dumpster enclosure, it looks like it is matching the facility, if you want to call it, with the rural character of the farmer's market and the winery. And now I'm back over on next page onto off-street parking. You certainly have the number of spaces required by the way we're calculating it. Probably everybody in this room has been there and on a fall day and said, how could that possibly be? But Troy, do you want to explain the parking comment to us about the field and lawn areas?
Yes, they have, and this plan probably doesn't show it. Maybe I'll go to the aerial and kind of zoom in. They have over here, you can see it's a large field that they would use for parking. It's difficult to calculate parking on a grass field. There's not striped spaces or designated aisles that you can measure and determine, but it appears they can fit several hundred cars over there. They also have areas across the road that they can use. They're a little bit smaller, but they have and then even the next to the paved area going to the east of that is a large grass field over here that is used, and then behind the farm market is another grass field that exists where people can park. It's difficult to get an actual determination on the number of parking spaces in there. It's been operating that way for many, many years. I couldn't tell you how many. Probably the applicants could give you a better number on that. So what we did is looked at what the change in the use for the winery, what's required there with that, and the buildings that are part of the plan, and based on our ordinance, the farm market, there's a little pavilion seating place, and tried to calculate what the parking would be based on that. And it looks like we've got enough, at least in the paved portion there. But obviously their use is a little more intense than that, and they have school buses show up there. So it appears the grass parking is working, has historically been working maybe we could do some improvements, but at least from that standpoint, when you're dealing with an existing facility, it looks like it's in compliance as far as how they've been operating.
Okay. Any comments on that? Questions? Okay with parking?
Yes.
Okay. Barrier-free parking, it looks like you're meeting the requirements for our barrier-free spaces. Parking lot driveway. Troy, can you just comment on the front yard setback comment that you have, and then how it relates to the existing site plan from years ago?
Yeah. Pull up the plan again. So currently, we have our off-street parking spaces are required to meet a certain setback from the roads and the right-of-ways. This parking lot appears it doesn't meet that, but it looks like it was part of an approval. It looks like they did have a plan that was submitted back when they originally came and got their conditional use permit back in, I'm going to lose the date.
79.
79. They had a site plan that was part of it, and this appears to be consistent with that. So it appears the township accepted it back in 79. It appears that it's remained in that location. They're not changing it. They're not modifying it. It looks like it's just an existing, might want to call it almost non-conforming parking lot with respect to that setback.
Okay. Everybody good with that?
Yes.
Okay. So now I'm turning the page, and I'm on loading spaces. It would appear as though we have the loading spaces required. And then, Troy, you want to talk about this access management thing real quick and Livingston County Road Commission?
So one of the questions that came up, I'll maybe go back to this aerial. And this is probably not an up-to-date aerial image of the area, but I think it'll show what some of the questions that were raised. We have a number of farm fields. This is Clyde Road again. They have a number of access points that go into these fields in various locations. And then you have the main drives into their parking lot. And there was some questions about, well, have all of those received proper permits and approvals, and should we look at that and make sure that conforms to the current standards? We reached out to the County Road Commission, spoke with them, and they provided an email, and I've included that email in your packet. They essentially said that they had no permits for any curb cuts or access points on Clyde Road. They verbally had indicated they didn't see any reason to go out, and there was no issue. But if the township was going to mandate that they have permits, then they would require the applicant to apply for and receive driveway permits. When we spoke with the applicant about that, the applicant recalls, and it's not so much the applicant here tonight, but her father was involved in when Clyde Road was paved from the interchange here with 23 going out to the site. It was primarily the applicant's father that was the main lead in getting that paved. The person I spoke with at the Road Commission can't really confirm it, but seemed to recall that was probably the case. So what we've done is figured that, well, then if the applicant was involved with paving it, and when the Road Commission went out to pave it, a lot of these drives did exist at that time, and they may not have received official permits, but certainly the Road Commission would have known of them at the time they paved Spicer Road, and if they didn't have an issue with them at that time, I don't know why they would have an issue now. And so what I've given you is the email from the Road Commission essentially stating that.
Well, and since the driveway permit is the jurisdiction of the county, if the county's okay with it as it is,
Yeah.
I personally am fine with it. How is everyone else? Good?
I'm okay with that.
All right. Let's just do the landscaping and screening all as one. And are there any comments on landscaping?
No, because it's all from before.
Right. So now, I'm working out of 2 packets, I apologize. I'm in packet page number 13. Sidewalks and pathways. We really don't want a sidewalk on Clyde Road. So I assume that is not required. And then the lighting. It's an existing site plan. Are you interested in them upgrading their lighting? Are you fine with the lighting that is there and the lack of a photometric plan?
Yeah. It's an odd request. You have a site that was approved 79 and has largely remained in that configuration. They received a legitimate land use permit from the township to construct a storage building. Now they're effectively requesting to change the inside of that building, but they're not proposing any additional lights, or they're not proposing any changes to the lights. And then the question is, well, when does doing something on the inside trigger a photometric plan on the outside? And in this case, it's a little different. Most of the times we're looking at photometric plans, we're looking at light as a nuisance to neighboring property owners, that we're trying to minimize that light that would wash off onto neighboring properties and be a nuisance to them. In this case, we're almost looking at it from a safety standpoint of, is there sufficient lighting at nighttime so that that parking lot and that area is safe? And I don't have a lighting photometric plan. That would be up to the Planning Commission to decide. I'm not sure that we would get what we're looking for from that photometric plan, but I don't know what level of light you need to have safe. Our ordinances are written from the other way of not too much light, if that makes sense.
It does.
Yeah, it does, and I'll just have a comment there. That's one of my concerns, is what happens if they decide that there isn't enough light and people are complaining, or their insurance company says, hey, you need to light this because you've got more traffic, and then it becomes too much.
Yep.
And then what is our mechanism to say, hey, that's too much light, if we don't have a photometric plan or anything?
So then that is a question that would have to come back to the Planning Commission in one of 2 ways. Either they ask for permission ahead of time, which hopefully they would do, or 2, they've already installed it and we've gotten complaints and we've shown up and said, you've got 2 choices, take those lights down or get permission from the Planning Commission.
Well, the site plan has everything on it, so whatever's there is there.
Whatever's there, and that's why I was going to suggest that if there's a proposed change in the future, that we would have to come before, whether it be administratively or through the Planning Commission, with what those proposed changes are, indicating the changes in the light levels.
I'm okay with that.
And address it that way at that point.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's really gets down to a lot of the reason we're doing this whole process. People might be confused, why are we talking about a business that's been in business for 50 years? We're trying to get the benchmark on what we have there. So I would agree that, if lighting were to be proposed in the future, that would certainly trigger a visit to the Township Hall and could go through any approval process at that time and meet those requirements. You guys okay with that? Okay. So now we're just down to consultant review letters. We have DPW has no comments. The engineer really has no comments. We saw the Deerfield Fire Authority. You're okay with all of that?
Yes.
Everything is fine there. So as I said when we started, we had 2 things to look at. One was the special use. We started with that. That was only a couple minutes, 6 criteria. Did we think a winery and an apple orchard fit on Clyde Road? Okay. So we have that motion first, and then if you're so inclined, and then we have a second motion which deals with those site plan issues that we just talked about. So if you are so inclined, you will find the first motion on the bottom of packet page number 15. 14, sorry. Print on the back. I'm working out of 2. 14.
I move to recommend the Township Board approve special land use application number 18-002 to permit a farm market with the inclusion of a winery and wine tasting room as auxiliary uses to the existing agricultural operation of Spicer's Orchard Farm Market at 10411 Clyde Road, based upon the following findings. Number one, the Planning Commission has determined the proposed special use farm market with a winery meets the intent and purposes of the ordinance, as well as the specific special use standards outlined in section 6.6. As a winery is considered an agricultural related commercial activity in the farm market category, and a farm market is permitted as a special land use in the CA Conservative Agriculture zoning district. Number two, the Planning Commission has determined the proposed use is compatible with the natural environment as well as existing and future land uses in the area. The farm market and winery add diversity to the Hartland Township economy. Three, the Planning Commission has determined the proposed use is compatible with the Hartland Township Comprehensive Plan, which designates this area as a state residential, which does allow for agricultural uses. Four, the Planning Commission has determined the proposed use is adequately served by the essential facilities and public services as the site is located in proximity to US 23 and Clyde Road, which is classified as a major collector road. Five, the Planning Commission has determined the proposed use will not be detrimental, hazardous, or disturbing to the existing or future neighboring uses, persons, or the public welfare, as the subject site is surrounded by similar land uses, farmland, and the business operations, farm market and winery, are positioned near Clyde Road and away from residential structures. Six, the Planning Commission has determined the proposed use will not create additional requirements at public cost for public facilities as the site is currently adequately served by septic and well. Approval of this special use permit is subject to the following conditions. The applicant shall secure all applicable approvals and permits from the township, state, and county agencies. Two, any new use, change in use, or modifications to the site shall require approvals from the township prior to any such activities occurring.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion to recommend special land use application number 18002 to the Township Board from Commissioner Mitchell, second from Commissioner Kalani. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Now our second motion, which is for the site plan, which we spent most of the time on this evening.
So I do have, Commissioner Voigt could not be here tonight. He did send out an email identifying some of his comments. I would like to maybe share those on the record. I'm not sure what would be the best time, but I'm presuming before you vote on the site plan would be better to at least share those. He did, his primary concerns are with public safety. He was in support of the special use permit for the activity. He wants to see the winery continue and the business be successful. He did have concerns with people parking on the other side of Clyde Road and having to walk over to this property. He did have some concerns with the fire department and the fire lanes and whether that needed more investigation or more work. He did have some concerns with non-compliant signs and thought this would be a time to remove any signs that may exist out there that wouldn't comply with the code. He did also mention he had concerns whether lighting was sufficient out there, and since there's not a photometric plan, he did have those concerns. So I guess I'll share that with you and let you consider that as you decide to move forward on this.
Any conversation you'd like to have on any of those?
Kind of difficult without Keith here.
You talk to yourself.
Do that too much.
If not, we're so inclined to, if you're so inclined, the motion is on packet page number 15 for the site plan. Somebody's afraid of reading.
Okay, I move to approve site plan application number 18-002, a request for a farm market with the inclusion of a winery and wine tasting room as ancillary uses to the existing agricultural operation of Spicer Orchards Farm Market. Approval is subject to the following conditions. 1, approval of the special land use by the Township Board of Trustees. 2, the applicant shall adequately address the outstanding items noted in the Planning Department's memorandum dated May 3, 2018, on plan submitted with land use permit, subject to an administrative review by the planning staff prior to the issuance of a land use permit. 3, the applicant shall secure all applicable approvals and permits and county agencies and any other governmental entity as applicable. 4, applicant complies with the requirements of the Hartland Deerfield Fire Authority. 5, any new use, change in use, or modification to the site shall require approvals from the township prior to such activities occurring.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion to approve site plan application number 18-002 from Commissioner Grissom, second from Commissioner Murphy. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Congratulations, we're all done now.
Thank you.
Continue on doing what you've been doing for 50 years.
I'll do the best I can.
All right, good deal, and good luck.
Quick question for Tony, or Troy, I'm sorry. As far as, they will have to go to the county for some permits. Will there be an actual document that indicates that they can take it with them, or does the county check back with you?
So, well, the first thing is the special use permit, the Planning Commission only recommended approval. We've got to get you scheduled to the Township Board to get that approval taken care of. And then after that, I believe you have a land use permit already pending in. Once the board has approved the special use permit, we can then act on that land use permit, and that will we'll stamp that approved along with some plans, and then you can take those plans to the county for their permits.
When is the Township Board meeting scheduled?
Unfortunately, I think the next one we can make is their first meeting in June. I couldn't tell you the date. It's typically the first and the third Tuesday of the month, and I'm drawing a blank on what that date might be off the top of my head.
Yeah, I can pull it up.
They have one on Tuesday, because I just saw their agenda.
Yeah, but it's
That's done.
yeah, that agenda, it's a pretty quick turnaround. That packet was already sent out on Wednesday, I think they sent that out, so,
That was yesterday.
yeah.
I talked to, let's see if we can get it on there.
Okay.
As a special added to the agenda, if it can be done. Talk to him. Let's see what he thinks. I mean, because this has been pending.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It's
Oh, I do. I've explored that,
Yeah,
so.
if you explored it, then fine, but if there's, maybe talk to Bill,
Okay.
put it on the agenda.
Thank you.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, and good luck in the future.
Thank you.
Next up, item 8, call to the public. Any comments? Okay, we're to planners report. Troy?
I do have a handful of items here. No, not really.
You're
just two.
limited.
Yeah. So I want to, last meeting, we had just enough for quorum. So I'll throw it out again. We just recently had a joint meeting with the Township Board on, in fact, we had a couple joint meetings, but one of the items that kind of came out of that was a discussion on the future land use map and the areas that are designated for multiple family and possibly amending that. And I'm seeking a little committee to pursue that, and the chair will select that committee, and if anyone has interest in that, reach out to Chair Fox or myself, and I'll relay it to Chair Fox, and
Or I'll just do it on my own.
or you'll just, maybe you just get appointed, I guess. The next item I've got is the Planning Commission meeting for May 24th. I don't have anything that would be ready to go for that particular meeting. I've talked with the chair about canceling that meeting, and it looks like we will cancel that meeting unless there's strong objection to it, so.
I don't see objections.
All right, well then,
Okay.
that's it. That's all
That's
I've
it? Committee reports. Any comments, anyone? Not, I need a motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
Support.
Mitchell and Kalani. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. We are done. If you need your agendas or anything signed, step on up. We'll do that for you guys.
It's my birthday today.
Yeah,
As they get into
exactly.
all fire safety issues.
It's so
Yeah.
different.